Hi, Pastors. Good afternoon. Hi, Pastors. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'll make this quick so other people can get in. My child just started school, first grade, and they showed a video, which I thought was like nonsense. And from a adult's perspective, it was kind of inappropriate. It showed four grown gentlemen. Two of them were basically dressed up as with wigs, and then they had a hot dog, character of a hot dog. And to me, that was inappropriate. So
and you said first grade?
Yeah, first grade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So how do you deal with this? Because I called the teacher, and I told her, I go, I'm a firm believer of Jesus Christ, and I think this is inappropriate for my child. And to find out that they were showing this the year before and 2 years before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how does a parent deal with something like that?
Well, so let me ask you, Mello, when you talked to the teacher, I know she obviously said, well, we've been showing this for 3 years, but did she respond to your position? In other words, that doesn't answer the question. That doesn't answer your objection. Did she give you an option for opting out?
She told me that this is approved by the school district. I go, well, it doesn't approve with me. And what could you do about it? So I'll mention it so they could see if they could not show it. So I will follow up with her to see if they are going to take it out of the curriculum or through the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing, throw it out. Because I asked other Bible members in Vacaville, where my friend who was leading a Bible study that we're going on, he found out that they were showing that too, and another teacher found out that they showed it to his son too. So,
well, okay, so I have a tough, difficult, and probably not even practical answer for probably a lot of people who have the same concern you have, and so here it is. It may not be of much assistance to you, but I think we are heading in a direction where if you want to be the gatekeeper of information in your kids' lives, you're going to have to be just that, the gatekeeper of information into your kids' lives. And that would either mean one of two things. If we're going to have our kids in public schools, we're going to have to spend a pretty exorbitant amount of time. And right now you can actually do this through Zoom because they're at home. So you could be a gatekeeper of information, but you'd have to be sitting right there, right, to actually be that gatekeeper. So you're monitoring what's being said and say, oh, yeah, we'll come back to this. And that's that practical? Probably not. And then when the kids go back to school, you have no idea what's happening in the classroom. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you here, I was educated in the public school system here in California, okay?
And you turned out all right.
And it might be time, though, Mello, to seriously think about the homeschool movement.
Yeah. Mello, we've got to take a break here. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. I also want to tell you guys about a movie that's coming up next week that you might want to register to watch. It's called Sex Ed, Let Parents Decide. I believe they're streaming it for free, but you've got to register to get the link. You can find out more about it on the Pacific Justice Institute's website. It's pji.org. Our friend, Attorney Brad Dacus, is the president of PJI, and this film will provide hope, directing viewers to free resources that will give important and valuable information. And if you think what Mello said, how he described what they're teaching his first grader was graphic, this is going to be pretty graphic as well. So make sure you're just watching it by yourself, not with your kids there with you. But again, it's called Sex Ed, Let Parents Decide, and you can find out more about it by going to the Pacific Justice Institute's website, pji.org. There's a banner for it. Just click through the different banners, and you'll see the one for the movie, again, happening next Friday, August 21st. All right.
We were just talking about this idea of what do you do, right, with public schools. It's a big concern for a lot of believers right now. Mm-hmm. And even though I was educated publicly here in Southern California, when our kids were growing up, we did all three things. There was a period of time in which they were in public education, and that's going to depend on the district you're in. Some districts you might, if you know enough about what's going on and you actually are on top of it, you'll know that if it's a place that this kind of thing is happening or not. Yeah. But I just don't, here in California, I wonder if there'll ever be, at some point, if every public school system, regardless of where you are, will probably represent what has been standardized statewide. So then the other question is, well, what are your options? Well, then we sent one of our kids to private school. Sean McDowell's a friend of ours, is another apologist, Josh McDowell's son. He was teaching high school in San Juan Capistrano, so we sent one of our girls there for high school. And we homeschooled for a big chunk of that when the kids were young. And so, look, here's the question. How in the world do you align your life in such a way to be able to have these options?
Yeah.
And I was a cop, okay, so we're not making any money. So the question then becomes, well, can you afford? So what we decided to do is to really prioritize our marriage and the kind of home we were going to eventually be able to live in and the kind of neighborhood we're going to be able to live in on the idea that probably at some point we're going to have to do this on one income. So to allow us to free up the opportunities that we might need with our kids.
And now they're even rewriting, the textbooks to kind of reflect some of the critical theory, critical race theory.
Oh, history's being rewritten.
So we have that, and if we're not really in tune with what's going on with what our kids are learning, these ideas, as it's been said so many times before, have consequences. So we really do want to be aware of the kind of worldview that's being given to our children. And so I think that, a lot of parents are going to have to think, is California the public school system that I want my kids getting their education from? Lots of Californians, obviously, they're moving out to Idaho, they're moving to Texas. I just saw a T-shirt, "Don't California on my Texas."
Well, and what's interesting about that, and I wonder, so you're right, but look, a lot of times when we make that offer, we talk to people about this, they're like, well, that's just not reasonable. I think for an entire generation right now of millennials, like my kids, your kids, they don't see an opportunity. They can't imagine a world in which one parent would stay home.
Yeah.
Especially in Southern California, where it's so ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that my wife Susie would have argued that we should be living at the very bottom of our reduce our standard of living to make available these opportunities for our kids. That would have been her choice. And
what you're saying is so crucial, because I think sometimes we're not willing to reduce our standard of living,
right,
in order to put what needs to be put first, our kids' future, their education. So we are out accumulating all this stuff while our kids are accumulating a worldview that's going to be toxic to them in the future.
Right.
So if we're willing to, maybe that's one approach. Can we simplify our life? If we can't, and there isn't homeschool as an option, then we really do just got to make up our mind to be totally engaged with what they're learning and what's going on.
And you'll spend as much time as you would have homeschooling.
Exactly.
So you might as well control the entire thing.
Exactly.
And one last thing about that, that's absolutely so true, that there's a difference between, I might have disappointments that I didn't have the kind of car, never drove the kind of car I would have liked to have driven. And I might have disappointments that I never, had made these kind of career choices but you'll have regrets when it comes to your kids, not disappointments.
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets professionally. I have disappointments. But it turns out that the area of regret is usually reserved for your family and mostly for your kids. And I don't want regrets. I'd rather have disappointments.
Yeah.
So we have to make these choices based on that option.
This whole COVID thing has had a lot of parents having to homeschool, and I think it's opened up their eyes to, well, maybe we can do this. But now there's this push to open up. It's funny. There's this push to open up the schools again. I don't know where I stand on that, because a part of me thinks, no, you send your kids back to school, it's just going to be the leftist indoctrination that they're getting, whether it's high school or even, first graders. So, if you can make that sacrifice, and again, we know it's a sacrifice, but it might be worth it.
And most people who do this end up having to sacrifice something in terms of income.
Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to.
Yep.